entre las cosas, por dejarme seguir vivo, por darme la fuerza para castigar al enemigo, por la bendición a mi fierro pulso certero y por poner a mi lado una jauría de fieles perros. No tengo miedo a vengarte, quédate aquí cuando esté mi vida y nos vamos por ahí. No tengo miedo a vengarte, quédate aquí cuando esté mi vida y nos vamos por ahí. Estoy listo pa' cuando usted guste y mande, Santa Madre, no quiero molestarle, yo llegué para quedarme en el recuerdo de mis dos familias, la de sangre y la que se conoce en las esquinas. Mi jauría anda que crece en soledad, que muchas veces aunque tienen a sus jefes, no saben lo que es una familia de verdad. Usted abre nuestros ojos a la realidad. Dicen que morir es despertar. Yo no sé si hay un cielo o un infierno, pero lo único seguro en esta vida es ustedes, solo entiendo. No tengo miedo a brincarme, quédate aquí cuando esté mi vida y nos vamos por ahí. No tengo miedo a brincarme, quédate aquí cuando esté mi vida y nos vamos por ahí. No tengo miedo a brincarme, quédate aquí cuando esté mi vida y nos vamos por ahí. No tengo miedo a brincarme, quédate aquí cuando esté mi vida y nos vamos por ahí.
All right, hello and welcome, patrons. This is our monthly Q&A where you can ask anything that you'd like about Santa Muerte, about me and how I work with Santa Muerte, pretty much anything you want. Hello, here I am. I'm kind of looking a mess because I am in the process of moving. I have been for a while now, and some of you know I'm disabled, so it makes it a little bit tricky. To move all by myself. This time I'm getting rid of all my things, pretty much, except for like my statues and things that I'm going to have shipped over to Europe. And by the end of the year, hopefully, they'll let Americans into Europe and I can move over there and still do the things that I do online. But we will see. It just depends on a few things. But I'm still going through this move. It's been really tricky, really hard. And I'm currently in my old place. I don't know if you can actually, I apologize if you can see anything in the background because it's a mess. I'm trying to set up for sales, hopefully tomorrow and definitely Saturday, and then everything that's left over goes to Goodwill. So I guess we'll see what happens. But by Monday, at the very least, I will finally be done with all this. And that makes me really happy. I have a few posts saved up about how I had to pack up my altars and how sad that is. But I also made some amazing travel altars, and those will be coming pictures soon. I have them ready. I just have not had any time. It's just been so crazy. So I apologize, but things are coming this month. Few updates and things like that. I don't mean to just have some radio silence like I've had recently, so I apologize if you felt that. That's been more out of necessity because my back keeps going out on me and then I'm in a lot of pain, but I still have to come back here and keep working, so it's just been really hard. But that's where Santa Muerte work comes in. She loves helping us when we are not able to do things on our own. When we are at the end of our rope, she steps in and makes sure things happen. It's not that things will be smooth or perfect. She also will teach us that life is never perfect. That life often has, as she is, death and transformation and transition and the void, the point of breakdown and regeneration. With all that, she'll teach us that we have to face periods like that in our lives. We have to have points where things are difficult. She'll help us walk through it. It'll never be too much for us, even if it feels that way. But it will get sometimes really intense. And so right now it's really intense. I knew it would be. I do my own tarot readings, but I also do exchanges with people. And I had been planning for this move for a good year, long before COVID, long before the end of last year even. It was at least a year that I was solidly planning for this. It's been probably 3 or 4 years that I've been loosely planning for this. So this did not just come out of the blue. It's just been really difficult doing the whole thing by myself. So yeah, and she works with us through that metamorphosis. she's the one that has allowed me to move to a place where I have family members who can store my things for 6 months or so before I move over there. Or I can move in with my sister, which is what I just did, so I can save up some money until I end up going. That'll help support me a little bit as I traverse over the sea. So yeah, Santa Muerte is able to do all this, but I will say, as a devotee, she works really fast. She really does. She brings us the results. She's results driven. So sometimes she puts us through the fire knowing that the end result is going to be what we want, or even when we don't realize that that's what we want, it is what we want, and she knows what we ultimately want. And she wants us to have a good life. So, she helps us. It's good to know your why in any working that you do with Santa Muerte because of that, because she will help you get the result, not necessarily the exact specifications that you think you want. If you know what your result ultimately that you want is, she will help you to get that. So it's better if you're doing a working, for example, for love, to be clear about the archetype that you want and not to necessarily put someone's name on it. For example, if you become in a committed relationship with someone and they really do seem to fit that, you can add their name, but it's kind of a clause, if that makes sense. It's still, I want this list, this archetype, and I would like it to be with this. It's like a plus sign, more or less. And that will help you. And if you can always understand that, then you know that you will get what you want. Whether it's ultimately that person or not, will be up to fate and the gods and that person themselves. Sometimes people don't want to be who they say that they are or who they show themselves to be. Sometimes they're actually something else, and it's good to know that. I don't mean to just keep rambling. I'm not seeing any questions coming in. So if you have questions, feel free to post them. I can see the live chat, and I will get on it as soon as I see any questions. But otherwise, I'll just keep rambling for another, 15 minutes or so. Whatever works best. So if you have questions, just let me know. And I will get to them. But yeah, it's in any working. So that was just one example of a working with Santa Muerte. I've done that with other deities, and she helps me with that because she is there for all of my magical workings. However, you can do that with anything. If you're looking for a job, it's best to get really specific with like the kind of work you want to do, what you want out of that work. How you want to feel. Some people really need to be able to contribute in a direct way. Some people prefer to be behind the scenes. Things like this that are more specific, or specific fields, that might be a little bit better than I want a job with Google. It's better to just be, because maybe you think you're going to love Google and it turns out Google's not right for you. So it's better to be a little more open to things changing, the very specific outcome, and having more specific reward-based outcomes, if that makes sense. Rather than naming a very specific person or naming a very specific company, or in my case, a very specific country. I had a feeling that it would be Germany, and it will be, well, as far as I can tell, it will be Germany, but my boyfriend is Brazilian, so it could have been Brazil, it could have been any other number of places. I just had a feeling I knew it was gonna be Germany several years ago. It was pretty clear. I am a tarot reader. This is part of what I do. So yeah, and there's been some things brought to my attention recently by people who work with Santa Muerte in the various groups that I'm in. I haven't been able to do much posting, but falling asleep at night, I've been able to see some notifications pop up and see some things in other groups, or in the Santa Muerte group on Facebook that I run. And one of those has been, what happens when you don't have spoons left to do the work? What happens, and by that I mean, like, I have PTSD, so I understand what it's like when you get overwhelmed. Right now I've been very overwhelmed, and I've been very much, just with this whole move and everything, and my back going out on me pretty much every night, like, it's just hard. So I understand, and I've been overwhelmed, and I've been stressed out too, like, about a month ago, I was really stressed out about this. I still am, I guess, but I'm just going. I'm making it happen, so it's harder to be stressed. But I certainly don't have the time to be doing rosaries every day right now. I just don't. That's just how life is. And she gets that. She won't she won't be mad at you if you can't do something. In fact, she's one of the most compassionate goddesses I've ever, and I'm calling her goddess in quotes loosely, but she's one of the most compassionate deities I've ever worked with. She understands when we're going crazy and we don't even have time for our own thoughts. She understands when we can't get out of bed. She understands if we're having a day where it's just enough to want to be alive. She understands that. It breaks her heart a little because life is her gift to us. And she wants to show us a greater perspective. The perspective of where you're able to look on your life and see everything as kind of like this is a simulation almost, if that makes sense. It's being able to step away from all of the drama, all of the different things that we tell ourselves, the storylines, all of this, to be able to step back and be like, someday you will die and none of it'll matter. Truthfully, someday I will die, and all these things that I'm trying to like treat because I'm a Taurus and I like to treat my things properly. Many of my things I've had my whole life, and I love them because you can't find them anymore, you can't buy them anymore, and they're kind of retro and cool and like I don't know, and other things I rescue and then I repurpose or I fix and make look beautiful again. So like for me, taking care of things is a big deal. But ultimately, stepping back and being able to say, eventually it won't matter. I'll be dead. It won't matter what happens to these things. They're not a part of me. This body, even that's broken and can't handle moving, it's not who I am. It's a facade. It's an exterior version of, and I get to make it look the way I want to a certain degree too. I can fashion it the way that I feel inside, so it represents me externally. And today I have like no makeup on and I'm all sweaty and like this is me in the raw. But regardless, like it's still not ultimate. It's still just like the desk sitting right over here that I don't want to get rid of, that I probably should, but I might not. It's like that. Eventually it'll be something that is released. Being able to see everything in your life that way can be healing, even though right now it is a part of who you are. Right now it's not necessarily something that you want to let go of. But being able to look at that in the moment and take a step back and say, it's all transient. It's all something that's going to leave me when I die. That can be very healing. It can show you that the stress that you're going through, the pain that you might be going through, it won't last forever. It can't last forever. Whatever hard, difficult circumstances you're going through right now, they won't last forever. Something new will change that. Something new will fill its place. That is the essence of transformation. That is the essence of being able to go into the cocoon and as a caterpillar and reemerge as a butterfly, which is part of Santa Muerte magic. So it's really important to understand that. It's really important to grasp that when you can't do these things that you want to do, and you can't do the full ritual because you're, and sometimes when we think we can't do it, that's when we really need it. Sometimes that's true, and she will know when that's true, and that's when you might feel her pushing you. That's when you might feel her trying to really make you do it. You'll feel the, I don't know how to describe it. It's almost like this, how do I describe this? Like a dark sort of pressure, or almost sort of like tug, almost like you're being pulled into a black hole, and you'll feel it, and you'll be like, oh, she really wants me to do this, and she's not going to be happy if I don't. That means you can. That means not only you can, but you should, because it's important for your well-being. If it's important for your well-being, she's going to push you to do it, period. Even if you think you can't. If it's not important right then for your well-being, she will be incredibly understanding. And that's something that I was trying to say online. And there are ways that you can, if you want to do something, but you really feel like you don't have the time to do the things that you want to be doing. Like you want to do a full rosary, but you don't have the time, or maybe you don't have the spoons. I've taught you all how to skip every other rosary bead. That's one thing you could, or on the decan. Skip every other decan bead. That's one thing you could do. You could you could do the skipping every other decan bead and skip every other decan, so you only have 3 decans or 2 decans. You can absolutely do that too. You can also absolutely just pray 1 decan. That's it. Skip all the rest. Just pray 1. Pray the opening. You could pray the opening prayers up to the decan, the one that's the cross, the single bead, and the 3 beads. You could do that. Or you could just pray the 1 mystery bead in a decan. You can make up your own mystery bead. La Santísima Muerte grants us grace when we don't have the power to stand on our own. For example, that was just one I made up on the spot. But that would be a great little mystery bead that you could say in the moment. Or La Santísima Muerte grants us the gift of life every day that we wake up. That could be another one. Again, I just made that up on the spot. You could probably make it sound a little bit better if you took a little more time than I did to come up with it. But those are ways that you can do that. And you could pray the opening prayers if you want, pray the mystery bead, and even skip every other bead on the decan, and then pray the final prayer. You could just pray 1 prayer. You could just pick your favorite one, pray that prayer with all of the strength you have in your heart, and that can be your one thing that you do in the day because you just don't have the spoons to deal with anything else. She will be happy with that if that's literally all you can do. It goes back to the idea of sacrifice and what you are able to have happen. And I'll get back to that in a second. You can also just express all the gratitudes in your heart. Tell her what you're grateful for as you lay in bed, as you take your shower or brush your teeth, as you go about your day, however you want to do it. You can just express your gratitudes to her in the moment. And that's also something that you can do if you don't have time or spoons to do other things. Like I was saying, it goes back to that concept of sacrifice and what you're able to sacrifice and what you're not able to sacrifice. You have a rich person, right? Someone who is like a CEO and makes lots of money, or maybe even a cartel boss. Sure, whatever. Someone who has a lot of money and, can get her anything that she desires. So they buy her, like, let's say gold, whatever. Let's say they buy her gold. Sure, she's going to love that. She's going to eat it up. Let's say there's someone who's poor and basically homeless. Let's say they are homeless. Let's go with that. They're poor, they're homeless, they don't have anything. They can't buy her a statue, they can't buy her anything like that. So instead they take a rock and with a Sharpie that they have dug in the dumpster to find that still works, they draw a skull on this rock and they sacrifice the first bite of their food that they receive to her. That would be equivalent to gold, because she judges you based on, and I don't mean in a negative way, but she judges a sacrifice based on what you're able to sacrifice, what you're able to bring to the table. Are you actually what is is it a sacrifice, or is it not really a sacrifice? When you think about the word sacrifice, you're thinking that you're giving up something for something. Same thing with everything that you do with her. She understands where you're coming from and she's not going to judge you unfairly. So just keep that in mind. That's something that I've seen pop up recently. Times are hard for a lot of people. A lot of people are going through moves right now, not just me. I'm aware of that. It was the astrology that was going on currently, and something else that I've really wanted to do but just haven't had time to do is write something about underworld astrology, because it feels right now, with all the retrogrades that we've been going through, it feels like the underworld right now. It feels like back in about April or May, we went into the underworld, about the time Pluto went retrograde. Pluto, Saturn, these planets went retrograde. It really did feel like we were going into the underground, under the underground. Yes, the Miklan, the underworld. And so I really wanted to start writing about underworld astrology, which would be talking about the retrogrades. It would be talking about going within, because that's a lot of times what we talk about when we talk about underworld things. And any underworld deity whatsoever is going to require you to do the shadow work. They're going to require you to face your fears, but know that you're not facing them alone. Like what I'm going through is really, really, it is something that inspires fear within me. When I moved here 2 years ago, a little over two, like about a year, 2 years ago, and like a month or two ago, uh, I moved from Seattle, and it was the hardest move of my life. I used to move around a lot as a child, even as a young adult. I was in the military, so I was able to pack up and move my whole house within like a couple days, pretty much all by myself. And now I can't even pack several boxes without my back going out on me. So it's very different, and I had to move from the place that I was living at for like 9 years, 10 years in Seattle. I'd lived there for a very long time, and that was home to me. And I had to move because Seattle's really expensive, and it got really out of control, the housing situations there. And I was living basically right downtown, and I just could not afford. It was one hill away from downtown, but it was right off light rail, and it was amazing. And it had been the last bastion of like somewhat reasonable rents if you had a roommate with you. So yeah, but not anymore. So I had to move, and I ended up moving into a situation because I didn't have anywhere I could go. Everything was unaffordable at that point, even up to like 2 hours out. I ended up moving into a housing situation that was not ideal, and I didn't know that until after I moved there. And they tried to kill my cats and tried to like steal my things, and assaulted me in the middle of the night. It was not good. I ended up calling the police on them, and just leaving and only coming back to pack my things with other people. That was what I would call a forced chrysalis phase. My sister ended up coming out, packing things up in the U-Haul, and shipping me back here to Ohio. And I say back here because this is where my family ended up settling down, but I kept moving. Like I said, we moved around a lot. So this is home to them. It's not home to me. But yeah, so I ended up coming out here. That was a forced chrysalis, and I understood why it was happening at the time because I could see enough into the future that I knew this was a stopping ground for only a few years before I went to likely Germany, but probably Europe. And that's exactly what's happening. So just keep in mind, you're not going through these things alone, even if they suck. There's reasons for it. And I don't say that lightly. I'm not the type of person who says there's a reason for everything. There's not. There was no reason necessarily for them to have been so awful. There could have been other ways for me to move out here. I don't know what would have been because I never wanted to. Seattle's home to me. But on the other token, it worked out. And I do know she was with me for that. And I do know that she initiated me moving out here. That was supposed to happen. Things shut down for me in Seattle, one after another. So that one was definitely predestined. Other things are not. Other things, she lets you pick up the pieces the way you want to, and she will help you to formulate what you need. Just keep in mind, no matter what, she's always there with you. The difference, I think, is, for me, I had a clear goal, a clear understanding of that goal, and I knew that that's what I was going to have. In other aspects, if you don't have a clear goal, or even just I want this out, this emotional well-being that feels like this at the end. Anything, if you haven't thought about goals, it'll make it harder for things to happen where you can achieve them. So I do recommend that you sit down and write out clear goals with Santa Muerte. Even if it's just three. Three is a very magic number. You can just write out three. You could just focus on one if you want to. It's up to you. But I recommend doing that because it's going to help put your life into focus. It's going to help her to use her magic to propel you. And that's really what she wants. She wants us all to have a happy life. And if you don't know what you want, that's even more magical because she loves helping to show you what it is that you might want in your life. And I think that'll be, I'm not seeing anything coming in chat, so I think that is where I will end it for today. And if any of you were joining me today, thank you for joining me. And if not, you'll be able to see this video. I'll leave it up. These I will leave up permanently, so you guys can watch them whenever you'd like to. Although a lot of the things I'll be talking about are things that are more happening right now. But just keep in mind, no matter what you're going through, Santa Muerte is there with you. She wants what's best for you. Sometimes we need to break things down in order to rebuild them. Sometimes the path we're on isn't going to work the way that, it's not going to take us to where we need to be. So just be aware of that. That is when I say some things happen for a reason. Not everything. Trust that she will be there on that journey with you. Trust that she will walk beside you and help navigate you. And trust that you will end up where you need to be. Just do your best. That's all that she requires out of you. So blessings to you all. I hope you have a fantastic week. And we will get started on some of the new month things at the end of, I guess it's about a week from now. And I'll be getting caught up on things after this weekend because it's just been so wild. So, expect some posts from me, hopefully by like Sunday or so, definitely by Monday. And may Santa Muerte guide and bless you all.
Especial dedicación a mi Santa Muerte, por protegerme y proteger a toda mi gente, por ser justa entre las justas, por dejarme seguir vivo, por darme la fuerza para castigar al enemigo, por la bendición a mi fierro pulso certero y por poner a mi lado una jauría de fieles perros.